Carrie, and I am coming to you from just outside of Portland, Oregon. Today is February 1st, 2017, and thank you so much for joining me. This is my little channel, The Creative Obsession, where I talk about all my crafty endeavors, mostly knitting and some quilting. So thank you for being here. Thank you for those that are returning and that have subscribed, and thanks if you're new and checking me out. I hope you find something here that you like. So today I've got a little quilt in the background because that leads into some other things, and so I'll talk about that. I've got a finished object of knitting and kind of some whips that are coming along, and then I've got some new yarns that I'm putting in the shop, and talk about some shop stuff at the end of the show. So thank you so much for being here. We have had a busy couple of weeks. I have been using a spare bedroom as my yarn office. It's where I keep my yarn, where I do my shipping, put labels, like all that yarny stuff, all the stuff that has to do with my hand-dyed yarns. And I was feeling a bit cramped, so we switched. I moved spaces. We have a space in the house that's like an open loft area, and we had like our workout equipment in there, and so we switched that, put our workout equipment in the bedroom, and now I've got the loft, which is a much bigger space. So that's taken some time getting myself reorganized and figuring out where I'm putting things. It's a good space as far as space goes. I've got to figure out lighting. I'm not as happy with the lighting in there. We're going to figure it out. But anyway, I've got a really nice space to work in, and I can move around and store all my yarn that I have, especially when I get a shipment in a bare yarn. It's like, where do you put it all? So now I think I've got that all organized, and kind of working out of that space has been pretty good. Just a matter of getting used to some new things. I don't have, because it's a loft, so you don't have all the walls, and I don't have like cute stuff hanging up there because I don't really have the walls, so it doesn't feel as cute. But you know, it's a good workspace. It's just a workspace. It's really all it is. So I'm not going to be necessarily hanging out up there, but it's working, and it's working pretty well for the space that I need. But you know, when I was moving stuff, and I was just like, gosh, I've just got so much stuff. Because you need a lot of stuff for, like, say, dyeing and yarn, having a yarn business. You've got to have all this stuff that goes with that. And so there's not really anything I can feel like I can get rid of. I just feel like it's just too much stuff. And Jim's like, no, you know, you're a creative person. You've got all, you know, you need this stuff to make you, to fulfill your creativity. And it's like, I just feel like it's too much stuff. So I'm still trying to kind of pare down, whittling away, getting rid of stuff that's just not serving me anymore. Like I have this bag of fabric scraps that I thought, well, if I ever need to make a baby quilt, it's like kind of bright colors and stuff like that. I'm like, I'll buy fabric if I have to make a baby quilt. I'm going to give that to the senior center. You know, I took down all my ribbons that were on my board back there. I'm like, I don't need the ribbons anymore. It really don't mean anything to me anymore. Chucked them in the garbage. So I'm trying to do that kind of stuff, kind of go through my quilting books, like, am I really ever going to make anything out of this? Or if I already have, do I really need to keep it? And I'll donate that stuff to the library. So it's kind of doing that kind of reorganization, something like that. So that's been going on as well. So in all that stuff and moving around and doing all those kinds of things, I also got my stuff to make my punch needle rug that I want to do. I got my hoop from Andy of Andre Sue Knits, and I bought some linen so I can make a rug, and then I get stuck, like what design do I put on that? I'm not real great with just drawing out something. I kind of have to copy something, or at least have inspiration to maybe take a drawing and alter it some. So what I thought I might do is work out of this book that I ended up making this quilt out of. So this little quilt on the back was my first needle turn applique project. Needle turn applique is when you have your design, say the little bird, and you cut your fabric about 1/4 of an inch all the way around, bigger than the design is. And then as you're appliquing it on, you're turning the edge over with your needle and then sewing, and then turning the edge and sewing. And so that was my first try at doing that. Didn't really like the process of it. I like it better than fusible applique because I'm not a real big fan of that glued on kind of feel, especially for a quilt. I think it's good on utilitarian type things like a bag or something like that. Not a big fan of it on a quilt, but I wanted to try. So the background fabric was a piece of hand-dyed fabric that I purchased from somebody. The border I dyed myself, and then the other ones were just prints that I had, leftover scraps from whatever, because you don't need a whole lot when you're doing stuff like that. And I got the design out of this book. This is an older book. It's called Applique Outside the Lines, written by Becky Goldsmith and Linda Jenkins. So it's got some really, really cute, whimsical designs in it. And I thought I might take some of the ideas from this to draw out my design for my rug that I want to do. Because I need to have an idea of what I'm going to do so I can have the colors. I need to dye up yarn for the colors that I need. But then I'm like, where's the rug going to go? Because that's going to depend on what colors I use. So if I do something that's just kind of whimsical, I'll find a place for it. So this book comes with patterns. Oops, I guess I took that out. So it comes with, it's kind of looking blown out. But anyway, it comes with patterns in it. But if I just take the idea, I really like the whimsical style of this. I think I can come up with a good rug design. So what my plan is to draw it out on a piece of freezer paper, maybe stick a couple pieces of freezer paper together to make a big enough piece. And that just gives me basically a big white piece of paper to draw out a design on, and then I can transfer that onto the linen. So that's kind of down the line a little bit because that's going to be a process. It's going to take me a little while to design the design. But anyway, that was a fun little quilt to make. I did enjoy the process, sort of. Doing that hand sewing has just gotten really hard for me. Holding anything tiny like that makes my fingers go numb, and I can't do it as much as I used to. So it's still fun because it's just colorful and whimsical, and why not? So that's what you have to look at today. Okay, so on the lines of the quilting, I had mentioned last episode and kind of asked the question, like, would you be interested in like a quilt along type of thing or whatever? So I've been thinking a lot about it. And what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to do some tutorial videos on different techniques that will build upon to then allow you the skill or whatever to make a quilt. And some of it's going to seem really basic, but even if you've been quilting for a little while, sometimes you'll hear somebody say something or show something just a little bit different, than you're like, oh, that makes sense, or oh, I'm going to have to try that. That looks easier, or whatever. I'm not saying the way I do things is the end all. I'm not an expert by any means, but I thought I would do that. My idea was to do some different skill building tutorials, and then in the end be able to make like a table runner. I think a table runner is a really good place to start with things, because then you end up with, you don't have to invest a ton of fabric. You don't have to invest a ton in your time. It's a little bit quicker. And if you're quilting it on your sewing machine, a table runner is a lot easier to maneuver because it's smaller. Now, when it gets to the quilting part, I'm not going to really be able to show it very well, because my only way I'm going to quilt is on my long arm. I don't quilt on my sewing machine. Being that I have quilted on a long arm for as long as I have, quilting on my regular sewing machine is very backwards for me. It's like upside down and backwards, and it's way easier for me and much more enjoyable for me to do it on my long arms. But I can show you maybe some basic ways to get started, and some basic shapes and designs that you might be able to do on your sewing machine, and kind of how you come about getting those designs as we go along. So that's kind of where I'm at. I've got my little notebook. I'm writing down ideas of like how to, you know, do these different techniques. And so I just need to figure out where I'm going to shoot the video and how to get the camera to really show what I'm doing without it being in my way. And so I've got to figure out those technicalities, but I am working on it. It's not gonna be something that's gonna come out next month, but I think it can be helpful, and I want to encourage people to try and make quilts. And if you make a table runner and you've got these basic skills, then you can make a quilt. It's just a lot of table runners put together, basically. You know, if you can make these certain things and go through how to do the binding and all that kind of stuff, and you just put that into making more of that, then you end up with a quilt. So that's where my thought is. I've been trying to design a table runner that uses some different shapes, so that in the end, if you follow along with this series, you'll end up having these different techniques under your belt, and then a table runner to go with it. And you can keep it, you can gift it, whatever. They're a nice little kind of instant gratification project. So I'll get working on that. Like I said, I need to figure out how exactly it's gonna look. And so stay tuned. I will put it on this channel. I'm not going to start a new channel or anything, and I'll just have like a playlist that's for quilting or something. But I'll keep you up to date when I'm going to do that. Okay, so moving on from that, I did hear back from Melissa, so I am sending her shawl, the vintage shawl that I had as a giveaway. I am sending that out to her, and so sorry guys, you don't get to have that, but I do have a giveaway for this time, and I actually forgot to pull the numbers. So let me take a minute here, and I will pull the number and figure out who won the pattern giveaway. So the giveaway was for the Muriel Cowl brioche pattern by Janine McCarty, and I just happened to be wearing it. I finished my cowl. It was a great learning experience. I did really enjoy it. I got frustrated sometimes just because of my lack of experience and knowledge with it, but it was interesting enough to keep me going back. So let me show you the side that doesn't have the glaring mistakes. How's that? So I just did like it was a bright pink, not bright pink, but more of a magenta, and then a speckled white on the back. You see the design more on the back side, but I like the pink side to be the side that I'm going to wear. I have to do show notes for it. I used the pattern, the Muriel brioche cowl pattern, and I made the medium with fingering weight yarn, and I did 3 repeats. So your repeats are what make it as wide as it is. I think I probably could have gone maybe with a small and had it been a little bit shorter and do the small size, because then that's how big around it is in circumference. But I really like it. I wish it would get cold enough so I feel like I could wear it, because we are just not really having a winter. It's gonna be 60 here in a few days. Today is a little gray and about 45, which, I mean, it's cool, but it's not winter cold, you know? So anyway, I don't even need it to go take Millie for a walk or anything, but I will make another brioche pattern. Janine writes really, really well in her patterns and stuff, and I think it turned out really good. You know, brioche is like super springy. So I think that's part of what happened, you know, why it got long, because it just stretches out so much. So when I blocked it, I soaked it, and when I blocked it, I laid it flat. I just laid it flat, but tried to pull it this way so that opened it up that way. But I'm super happy with it. Even though I have mistakes in it, I don't really care, because let's be honest, when it's like this, who's going to notice? So I did have a giveaway for this pattern. I had a thread that was in the Creative Obsession Ravelry group, And the question was, tell me about an adventure you would love to have. And so I just pulled random number generator, and it pulled number 10, which is 4*1, and that is Rhonda out of Missouri, I believe. I just looked you up, Rhonda. Oh, you know, my memory's not that great. Yeah, it was Missouri. So anyway, get in touch with me, Rhonda. Or no, you know what? I'm just going to give you the pattern. Hopefully you'll see this before you get the pattern. You don't really have to get in touch with me because I don't have to send you anything. I can just go online and gift you the pattern. So thank you for everybody that entered. That was really fun to read a lot of your adventures that you'd like to have. And speaking of giveaways, I'd like to do another one. As I'm going through and I'm kind of getting, purging the stuff that I don't really need or use or want anymore, I have another shawl that I'm going to give away. Again, I need to keep this in the United States because of shipping and my what do I want to say? Bad luck with shipping overseas on my giveaways. I don't have bad luck when I ship overseas out of my shop, but I do when I do it by myself. So I'm going to keep this domestic, plus it gets expensive. But I have this is the Meer shawl that I made. This is Kristen's design of Voolenvine designs. Voolenvine, she's Voolenvine yarn, but it's her design. It came out a couple of years ago, last year, something like that. I love it, but it's too small. It's too small. The yarn, I didn't take gauge. Yeah, you should probably take gauge. And in her picture, the way she held it, it looked huge. And I thought, I don't want it to be that huge. So I went down a needle size from what the pattern called for. And then I made it too small. So I'm going to give it away because I don't ever wear it. I think the only time I've ever worn it was here on the podcast. And so it needs to go to somebody else. It's a really pretty teal color. The yarn is Nerd Girl Yarns. I do have a little bit left over, so you'll get that with the shawl. It's a gorgeous pattern, and I might someday make it again because I really loved that not applique border, but applied border. So if you would like to win this little shawl, I will put another thread. I have to think of a prompt for that. Just enter in that, and that'll run for a couple weeks, and I'll close the thread when I go to record again because I can't see my calendar. So I don't know what date to tell you that's going to be, but it's a couple weeks from now. Probably right around Valentine's Day. Oh, that would be a sweet little gift to get, wouldn't it? So anyway, if you want to enter to win that shawl, go to the group and find the tab for it. So this was my FO. This is the only thing I did finish. This took a considerable amount of time, and I talked about it last episode where I put in lifelines, and thank goodness I did because I had to go back to the lifeline again a couple more times. I don't know. I was like, I'd go along smoothly. Everything, I'm like really paying attention. I can't really do the decrease, increase rows when anybody's around. So I would do it, in the middle of the day after lunch or something when it's quiet. But somehow I would get off. And I think what was throwing me was there's a stitch where you take a stitch, yarn over, and then take another stitch in the same stitch. So you end up with like 3 little stitches. And then when I'd come back around, I'd think, what did I do wrong? This stitch isn't right. And I would try and fix it, which then messed me all up. And it's like, no, that's supposed to look like that. Just trust it. So I had to rip back to my lifeline a couple more times, and then I was good. That's part of the reason why I only did 3 repeats, because I just didn't feel like I had the time to do more. Plus, I don't need it to be that bulky. So anyway, this is my only finished object. But then as soon as this was done, and I thought, well, gosh, I have a ton more yarn left because this only took 30-something grams of each color. 35, 37 grams or something like that. So it really doesn't take that much yarn. So even if you have some leftover bit, I mean, this obviously isn't enough, but you don't even need a half a skein of each. You can make something like this. So I immediately get on Ravelry. I don't know why, just because you do. And start looking. I don't know what I was doing, how I found it. But anyway, I found a pattern that you use double strand of your fingering weight yarn and you make a little slipper. And so I've got one done. I still have to weave in the ends, but it's a little slipper. And you basically are just knitting like a rectangle, and then when you get to the toe there is some toe shaping, but it's kind of like knitting a washcloth or a wash rag or dishcloth or whatever. It's just garter stitch, knit back and forth, and I kept track of my rows so that I could make the other slipper the same, and then you seam it together by doing a crocheted seam, like a single crochet to seam it up. So it's super easy. It fits my foot nicely. I don't know how well it would stay on. I'm hoping that it'll stay on. Okay, I almost think I could have made it a little bit wider so that it goes up around my foot a little bit more, because once your foot's in there, that's a little short. But I mean, it's just to wear around the house, you know, little house slipper. So that I worked on that because I needed to, right? So I still have a good amount. I still have to make another slipper, but I've made the brioche cowl and a slipper, and I still have quite a bit. So getting a lot of mileage out of that pink yarn. Another thing that I decided that I needed to do, don't know why. Jim just goes, "What are you working on now?" I'm like, well, I had this idea. Let me get it for you. So I decided that I needed to crochet one of those fuzzy blankets. So this is the Bernat. I can't get the ball. It's like the giant balls of Bernat. So it's this giant ball of Bernat blanket yarn. It is a 6 super bulky, and it has 300 grams, approximately 220 yards in each ball. So I decided I needed to make Robert and Michael a blanket. So I am just randomly, I'm doing the gray, and then I'm randomly throwing in this teal kind of color, just as like every once in a while the stripes aren't going to be even, they're not going to be evenly spaced. I just want it to be sort of random. I got online and on Yarnspirations, which is run by the people that make the Bernat yarn, and they make Karen yarn and different kinds of yarns and stuff, and just looked for a blanket pattern. And so this was called like Tiny Bubbles or something like that, and I liked the texture of it. It's really soft and super, super squishy because the yarn's just like this fat, fluffy, super squishy yarn. And so yeah, I decided I think I need to do that. So I'm, you know, working my way across. I'm doing another row of that teal color, and hoping to have it done by the end of the month to give them, so that when they're comfy on their couch, they've got a fun little blanket. Because I don't know, because I decided I needed to, and I don't have to have a reason. So I ended up, what was funny is, let's see if I can find it. I have it in this giant bag. This is a bag I made. I hope I didn't, oh yeah, here we go. This is a bag I made years ago. And it's just a big giant bag with these grommets, and then you use this rope, and it was like perfect for the blanket. So I found a use for the crochet hooks. If you remember back when I tried to do the dot painting, and I bought these crochet hooks because the bottom edge is really flat, and so it makes really nice dots, and I just happened to have the size I need for the blanket. So that worked out. So I'm cruising along on that. I can only work on it for a little bit at a time because then my hands get really sore. I had brought it to knit night the other night, and one of the gals is a crocheter, and she holds the crochet hook more like a pencil. And I was trying to do that because it's just less movements, and I couldn't get it right, and I don't know that you can really do that with this big fat yarn. So I'm having to, you know, do this, and it's a lot of movement, and my wrists get pretty sore. So I put in a few rows and then stop, work on a silly slipper. So Silly, silly, silly. Another thing I started, which I wasn't sure if I was going to, but if you follow me on Instagram, I did show that I started it. And it is the Rose City Yarn Crawl Mystery Knit Along. And I had shown that if I was going to do it, I was thinking of using the Destination Yarns yarn that I got when I went to Yellowstone. That was the color is based off of the Grand Prismatic Spring. And I had paired it with like a almost black, like a charcoal gray. And I think that would look really good, but for some reason it wasn't really speaking to me. And I was concerned about the fact that this has quite a bit of orange in it. And so if I was going to wear it, orange is not really a great color on me. So then I kind of just got into my stash and like, what do I have? You know, I just really kind of wanted to do it because it's a local designer. Her theme was waterways. And I just thought, you know, I'm just gonna go for it. So then as I was pulling stuff out, I found this yarn that I got when I did the yarn crawl 2 years ago. And I don't have the ball band for it anymore. So I don't know the designer. I have a feeling it was Lilliput or something like that. So I don't know the name, but basically it's just sort of a medium blue color. The bummer part of it is that it was in 2 pieces. As I was winding it, it actually had 2 pieces. So I don't know how that happened, but I thought, you know, that's okay. When I get to the end, I'll just wind I'll have to just weave in some ends or something. But the way I did it, and I think I showed it on Instagram, is to try and see, because this had some darker colors and it has this like lighter color. So you're not dealing with a tonal necessarily. And I wasn't sure how this was gonna necessarily look with it. The pattern called for medium contrast, and I generally am drawn to a high contrast, and I generally look at things like that. So I'm like, okay, medium contrast. It doesn't have to be so opposite on the value scale. So I just took both of the skeins and just like opened them up and then twisted them together. So that way I could see how this blue was going to play with all these other colors. And I thought it looked really good. So I thought, okay, I'm going to go with that. Using yarn I did with a yarn crawl. This is a yarn crawl mystery long. So I got the first pattern. And so the pattern is called Ramona Falls. Now Ramona Falls is a waterfall. I've hiked back to it a few times up on Mount Hood, and it's just a gorgeous, gorgeous waterfall. I'll see if I have some pictures. I think we were there last summer actually. And so I thought, okay, cool. It's like a place I've been, and you know, I was just all in for it. So I started it and cast it on, and so now we just got the second clue yesterday. So if you are doing it and you don't want to see the clue, I mean, I don't know how you cannot. People post stuff, but I'm going to show it. So here it is so far. And I can tell you what, I am loving my yarn choice. I love how the lighter blue softened the orange. I think it complements it no matter where it is. As I got into here where you're increasing your stitches, it started to kind of pool, and I'm like, I'm loving that. So now I'm just starting clue 2, which there's like some slip stitches, and I'm not sure how that's going to turn out. So really, really happy with it. I'm really glad I'm doing it. It's been just an enjoyable, mindless knit. It's a good kind of relaxing knit after if I've done some rows on that crochet blanket, I can kind of pick this up. And the colors are just stunning. And this will be something I will wear. I don't know, it depends on what the shawl ends up looking like, but the colors are colors I would wear. Even though it's got the orange in it, the blue just helps kind of just soften that, and it is looking pretty cool. So it's going to be an asymmetrical triangle. So we'll see what happens. So far, so good. So we're going to keep going with, I think what this ends up making, if you can kind of see, I think it ends up making like a brick kind of look. I don't know. We'll look and see as we go along. So I'm going to really try to stay up on it just because I think that it would be more fun to just kind of go along with it. I'm not joining in on any kind of chatter or anything like that because, as you know, I'm not much of a chatterer in group stuff. So keep up with that. But probably 2 more weeks. I might be almost done with it the next time I record because we get 4 clues total, and so this is the second one. I'll be on my 4th clue, I think, but close enough. So stay tuned to see what happens with that. Something I want to try. I need to finish up some stuff, but something that's piqued my interest and I'm really curious about and want to try is double knitting. When I did this and had the double side, it kind of got my brain kind of going, what if I, and so, I did watch part of Nathan, who is the sock magician. He does a lot of double knitting, and he has a tutorial on his channel on casting on, and it's complicated and it would be something new to learn, which I love to do. But I thought, wouldn't that be cool to do like a cowl or something? Because what I like about this is there's no wrong side. There's just a different side. And so double knitting would be the same way. It would just be the opposite, So that's in my forecast, my future. Look into my crystal ball. That's in my future. So what I'm going to show now and talk about now is some updates and some things that are going to change in my shop. So if you're done with this part, don't care what's in the shop, thanks for watching. And if you're curious of what's going on and what I got going on in there, stay tuned. Okay, so some new things that are happening in my shop. I have been wanting to change my fingering weight base. I really like the 80/20. I like a plumper yarn, but I wanted to get something that was a 4-ply and had more yardage. The lovely base that I have now, which is an 80/20 100-gram skein, has 400 yards, and a lot of patterns for shawls and stuff you need like 415, 420. And so I've been wanting to get something different, and so I finally was able to get some in a base that is 80/20. It's a 4-ply, and it'll come in 115-gram skeins, so it's a little bit bigger of a skein, and it has 434 yards on it. So for shawls and stuff like that, you're going to get more bang for your buck. The price won't change. So that's kind of what I'm doing. Right, I was needing to use up the base that I had, and so I've kind of gotten through that and starting some new colors on my new base. I haven't named it yet because I'm still trying to figure that out. As you know, naming things is not exactly my forte. So some of the stuff you're going to see is still on my old base, which is still lovely. I really like it. It's nice and soft and plump. And then some of it is on the new base, which is just as plump, but it has a higher ply, so it's a 4-ply. I'm hoping that one thing I noticed when I made my So Faded sweater and I made it out of that 2-ply yarn is that it pretty quickly started to look a little pilled, and I thought, I haven't even worn it that much and I'm already kind of feeling like it's doing that. And so for longevity, because I figure it has to be something that I want to knit with, and if I'm going to knit a sweater or a shawl or something like that, I really wanted to have the 4-ply. But what I was finding out there was the 4-ply that was out there was too thin. I didn't like it. That's like similar to what this Meer shawl is made out of. It's a thinner yarn. It's that 75-25 blend that's out there. So anyway, some of the stuff I'm going to show you will be on the new base. I can't remember what I showed last time. I don't think I showed anything, so some of it may be a repeat. But I'm going to show you what it's in there. So we've got Cherry Blossom, which is a fantastic colorway for Valentine's Day coming up. It's got some grays and blacks in there along with this beautiful pink. I've got Totally Teal. This is on my Plump DK base. Love this base. Actually, very similar to that. So this is a good tonal colorway. Comes in a couple different bases. I haven't done this one in a while. This is Northern Lights. My interpretation of Northern Lights, where you have all the colors. You've got a little bit of white for the stars and then the dark blue sky. So that's just a variegated skein. This new one, love this, is Spring Fling. So you've got teal, turquoise, green, purple, all kinds of soft loveliness there. Another one that was new that's been pretty popular is my Whisper. This is very lightly dyed with kind of a tannish color and kind of a blush color. This one's on my glitter base. It's got a little bit of sparkle. That's a good neutral. So this is Tequila Sunrise. Pretty much speaks for itself. Got some gold colors and some of this beautiful amethyst color. Some of these I don't have names for yet, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I'm going to repeat them. So they may go in as one of a kinds, and I need to rename that because it's not usually a one of a kind. There's usually a couple of the one of a kind, so they're not really one of a kind. So I got to come up with a different name, but it's like I try something and I'm like, do I like that? Let me see if I can duplicate it, you know, that kind of thing. So this is one of the new ones. It's gray and you've got this really deep dark purple and some turquoise in it. I really wanted to try with purple and green. Not sure if I can repeat this. I still kind of want to play with it, but it'll be in the shop if you want this. I saved a skein for me. I'm going to make some socks with it. This is a new one that I've changed the way I do it, so it's not going to look exactly like this, and I'll show you what it's going to end up looking like. So this will go in the shop. This is another one, another new one that I'm not sure if I'm going to duplicate or not, but it's got kind of a rust and teal speckles on it. This, okay, so I dyed this. I'm like, oh, I really like that. So let me see if I can duplicate it. And when I wrote my notes for it, I wasn't as specific as I need to be. I think I don't know, I had too many things, too many different new colorways I was trying. So I wrote down the colors I needed. I just didn't write down like how much of whatever. So I thought, okay, let me see if I can duplicate it. And when I did, I got it a little bit darker. So this is the new base. I don't know if you can see. Let's see the difference. So this is my lovely base and this is the new base. So you can see that it's got a 4-ply, but it's still plump and good. So you can see there's a difference. So this one got a little bit darker, which isn't bad, but I got to see if I can nail down this formula first before I say for sure whether that's a keeper colorway. I really liked this. So this is more of a periwinkle than this. This is more gray and this is more periwinkle. This doesn't have the aqua in it. It's just the dark purple. This is a good colorway. This one is a repeatable one. This is orchid. So it's a it's orchid color. It's a pinky purple kind of color, tonal. So this actually goes really good with that, I think. And it would go really nice with that if you wanted a higher contrast. This is what this started with this, changed it to this, a little bit less green. And so this looks good with that orchid. This is going to be called Wildflower. I just dyed up some more this morning, so it's cooling. I think I got this recipe down to be like this. This will be one of a kind. This one actually ends on glitter base. And then when I first got my new base and stuff, and I thought, okay, I gotta just see how this takes the dye. What's this gonna look like? I'm just gonna go crazy, and I'm gonna pull my neon colors and just kind of play with some bright colors, because I was dyeing. I think I was dyeing a bunch of this, and it's like, I need bright colors. Bam. This is not a repeatable colorway. This was just to see. This was just to play, and so I thought about over dye. Oh my gosh, it's not just too bright. But you know what? I think this would make the most fun pair of socks. So I'm going to keep it and make some socks out of it. But I think I need to put some neon in the shop, don't you think? Because that is just awesome, especially for socks. So I hope that that you like the new base as much as I do. I think it has great stitch definition, and you get a lot of mileage because you get more yardage with a plumper yarn. So I think it's going to be all good. I won't dye, like colorways that I have already that are dyed on my previous base. I'm not going to re-dye those colors on the new base until those sell. So I'm thinking of having a sale this weekend because it's Super Bowl weekend, and just because. So I will post anything that I do for my shop. I post it on Instagram, so follow me there. But that concludes our little show for today. I want to thank you for sticking around and hanging out with me, and I hope that I can get the quilt series up pretty soon and kind of go on with that. I need to buy some fabric because I need to make whatever it is that I'm going to demonstrate, and all I really have as far as fabric, I don't really have a stash. I just have leftovers. I can't really say scraps because some of them are like, a strip like this big or whatever. But it's just leftovers. It's just scrappy pieces. So I want to get some yardage because a part of what I'm going to talk about is how to get your fabric on the straight of grain, how to cut straight strips so that you don't end up with a little curve at the fold and that kind of thing. But I have to demonstrate it because it's easier for me to talk you through it and show you. So I'm got to get online and search. So anyway, stay tuned for that, and take care of yourselves. I hope you enjoy Super Bowl Sunday. I like to watch it for the commercials, although the commercials haven't been that good the last few years. So I'm hoping that they up their game a little bit. But I just enjoy. I mean, I don't really care about football, but it's good knitting stuff. I mean, just sit and knit while that's on. So that's what I plan on doing. So anyway, thanks for stopping by and watching and hanging out, and I will see you in a couple weeks.